I'm asking the ICC to hurry up, and if possible, they can come here and start the investigation tomorrow. This issue has been left hanging for so many years. Matagal man, baka mamatay na ako, hindi na nila ako maimbestiga. So I'm asking the ICC through you na pagpunta na sila dito bukas, umpisahan na nila ang investigation. And if I am found guilty, I will go to prison and rot there for some time.
The plane carrying former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte took off at 11:03 p.m. this evening and exited Philippine airspace. The plane is en route to The Hague in the Netherlands, allowing the former president to face charges of crimes against humanity in relation to his bloody war on drugs. The former president was earlier placed in government custody at Villamor Air Base after his common law wife, Hanilet Abansenya, and members of his entourage arrived at 9:20 this morning from Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific flight.
Good evening. As you can see from the video, we have former President Rodrigo Duterte mocking and challenging the International Criminal Court in coming here in the Philippines to start their investigation in his war on drugs. Quote-unquote, he said na baka mamamatay pa ako bago nila ako iimbestigahan. They can start tomorrow. His words, not mine. And then if he is found guilty, he should go to prison. On the next clip, we have current President Bongbong Marcos announcing the details of former President Rodrigo Duterte's arrest, such as the time of flight leaving the Philippines and then to where, which is The Hague, Netherlands, where the ICC is located, where he will be facing charges against his crimes against humanity, the systemized violence of the Filipino people under his administration, and in relation to his bloody war on drugs. Greetings! In this video, we will be presenting our academic paper titled Accountability Beyond Borders, the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte and the role of the international criminal justice in the Philippines. Former President Rodrigo Duterte is one of the most controversial recent presidents in Philippine history. His campaign of Plan to Kang, launched in 2016 at the beginning of his administration, led to thousands of deaths all across the country. Official government estimates put the death toll around 6,000 victims, but other human rights organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch estimate the death toll to be around 27,000 victims, around 4 times higher than the official estimates. These figures, combined with documented testimonies and witnesses from the survivors and the families of the said victims, suggest a pattern of systemized extrajudicial killing. This raises serious concerns about the crimes against humanity. So in response, the International Criminal Court decided to open an investigation regarding Duterte's case and his administration. In response, the ICC launched an investigation to determine whether Duterte and his administration is liable for the widespread and systematic human rights abuses during his reign. While the Philippines formally withdrew from the ICC in 2019, it is very clear from the Rome Statute that withdrawal does not clear us and bar us from legal consequence and of their jurisdiction. So the ICC, or the International Criminal Court, still maintains jurisdiction over the alleged crimes from 2016 to 2019, which is also comfortably the reign of former President Rodrigo Duterte and his alleged crimes. So ensuring that the debate over justice, sovereignty, and accountability in our country remains alive. Let us proceed with the rationale and the introduction. So, the Duterte case highlights one of the most pressing issues in international law, and that is how can we uphold international law without undermining the country's sovereignty? We have, on one hand, Duterte supporters, and they claim that Duterte's administration reduced street-level petty crimes, and that they also claim that the Philippines has the necessary legal institutions to uphold accountability and justice. On the other hand, critics contend that the war on drugs normalized state-sanctioned violence. It eroded the rule of law, the trust of the citizens upon the Philippine National Police, and inflicted lasting trauma upon the victims and their communities. If these alleged violations go unaddressed, the precedent is very dangerous. Leaders or future Philippine leaders may believe that they can act with impunity, free from consequence from international and domestic accountability. Thus, this study explains the importance of the legal, ethical, and political dimensions of international criminal justice in the Philippines as they relate to Duterte, situating his case within the broader debates of sovereignty, national sovereignty, human rights, and transitional justice. Let's proceed with legal and theoretical framework. We have 1 and 2. I will be presenting 1 and I will be handing number 2 to Luis. So number 1, we have international legal basis for accountability. So the authority of the ICC derives from the Rome Statute of 1998, which the Philippines ratified on 2011. It states under that statute that the ICC can investigate and prosecute crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide when domestic courts are unable or unwilling to act upon such abuses. Although the Philippines formally withdrew from the ICC in 2019, under Article 127 of the Rome Statute, it clearly states that exit does not free it from consequence and jurisdiction. So even if the Philippines left from 2019, they still hold jurisdiction over the alleged crimes against humanity from 2016 to 2019. Thus, the ICC still retains its jurisdiction and they can still investigate such acts from 2016 to 2019, which is also the time when Duterte and his administration reigned. Human rights instruments such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights further affirm that the right to life, and the prohibition of arbitrary killings, that is very important, and reinforcing the legal foundation of accountability. I will be passing my presentation to Mr. Luis Banawa. That is all. Thank you.
All right. Hello, I am Luis S. Banawan, and I will be taking care of a few slides here on this presentation. First would be the arguments against ICC intervention. Now, the first argument would be the sovereignty concerns and self-determination. Opponents argue that ICC intervention undermines the Philippines' legal independence, challenging its authority to navigate domestic justice under the framework of the 1987 Constitution. Now, there are those that argue that the ICC trialing Duterte violates the sovereignty of the Philippines due to the fact that it is an international body, while the Philippines is a sovereign nation, and Rodrigo Duterte is a citizen of the Philippines. Second, there is the political bias in ICC proceedings. Critics highlight a perceived bias in ICC practices, with allegations that the court disproportionately targets leaders from the global south, thus raising questions about fairness and impartiality. Here's the thing, Rodrigo Duterte does not necessarily have the best reputation in some nations, especially those that have greater power in the international community. As such, it is concerning for some that the ICC would be biased against Rodrigo Duterte. Third, we have the destabilization of domestic institutions. International interference risks complicating an already fragile judicial and political system, potentially leading to reduced public trust in both local and global justice mechanisms. Now, the Philippine government has not necessarily been clean throughout its history. There are periods where it would be incredibly popular due to the fact that corruption is very prevalent in the system. As such, due to the already unpopular system, there are those that worry that the reputation will be further besmirched due to the fact that we have to rely on foreign or international mechanisms just to pass justice. Now, fourth argument against ICC intervention would be the fact that we already have a functioning domestic judiciary. Detractors of ICC involvement assert that the Philippines possesses a competent legal infrastructure capable of addressing allegations of extrajudicial killings independently, negating the need for external oversight. The Philippines, as a sovereign nation, possesses a judiciary system like all nations, of course. Now, since we do have a judiciary system in place already, there are those that argue that the ICC is not needed when it comes to the allegations of extrajudicial killings. At the same time, however, there are those that disagree due to the fact that our judiciary system is already unpopular. Now, on the last arguments against ICC intervention will be the risk of polarization. External intervention may polarize the public further, deepening divisions between pro and anti-Duterte factions and potentially destabilizing the political environment in the country. Now, as I have previously said, the government is not necessarily popular, and as such, needing external intervention just to pass justice would further besmirch the reputation of the government. Because of the reputation of the government falling, the divisions between the political factions would only worsen due to the fact that some might be convinced that more radical measures are needed to pass the agendas of each and respective factions.
Now, there are several proposed solutions and recommendations in order to help remedy the problems associated with this situation. Now, we could pursue collaboration with the ICC, or rather, limited collaboration. Advocate for limited cooperation with the ICC, such as providing evidence and allowing investigative access, which balances the country's commitment to justice and its assertion of sovereignty. This approach aligns with international human rights standards while minimizing perceived foreign interference. This path would be one that requires the government to find balance between both the international community and those who do not wish to collaborate, or at least want very limited collaboration with the ICC. As such, while it may not be popular with some people, compromise could be seen as necessary for the sake of safety and stability. Next, the establishment of a Truth and Justice Commission proposed the creation of an independent domestic body that conducts impartial investigations into the drug war, collects victim testimonies, and transparently reports its findings. This step fosters trust in domestic institutions and ensures justice for affected communities. Well, this one would be the establishment of some sort of independent organization within the government to conduct investigations within Rodrigo Duterte's drug war against drug dealers, pushers, and other criminal elements, to see if there was any violations of human rights. Third, we have the establishment of community-based rehabilitation programs. Recommend a shift from punitive drug war strategies to rehabilitation programs focused on community health. Such programs would address the root cause of drug issues, reduce incarceration, and provide sustainable solutions for affected individuals. Now, this one calls for a switch of strategy, wherein instead of fighting fire with fire, the government would instead rehabilitate existing judiciary laws and laws within jails from one of punishment to one of reform. Next, we have the restructuring of the police system. Introduce reforms to address systematic issues within the police force, including better training, stronger internal accountability mechanisms, and greater oversight. These measures aim to prevent future abuses and rebuild public confidence in law enforcement. Now, this one would be the same as to what I have previously said for the rehabilitation programs. Reform, of course, but on this one, it would be on the law enforcement system, which would turn it into agencies that would truly stick to their commitment of serving the public, so that the reputation of our law enforcement could be restored, which has been lowered due to the numerous alleged human rights violations during the drug war. Lastly, we have the strengthening of domestic legal institutions, encourage enhancements to the judiciary and legal system to ensure their capability to handle human rights cases effectively, improve domestic capacity, reduces reliance on international bodies, reinforcing national sovereignty while addressing the systemic flaws. Now, on this one, of course, would be the same as what I've previously said, to reform our judiciary system. On this one, it would mean that if we would be able to have a better, a more capable judiciary system, in the first place, then we would not have been needed, and we would not need the ICC or any foreign bodies to address our systemic flaws. Now then, let us move on to the main discussion on the applications and the effects. In the short term, there would be the resistance and backlash. Initial accountability measures may face political pushback from Duterte's allies, risking heightened polarization and public distrust in external interventions. Now, of course, these actions would not be popular with pro-Duterte factions. As such, the government would risk increasing radicalization between factions, between pro-Duterte and anti-Duterte blocs, and as such, would see a decrease in reliability due to political disagreements. Moving on, number 2, acknowledgement of victims, providing space for victims to testify and be recognized fosters societal healing and acknowledgement of the suffering endured during Duterte's anti-drug campaign. Now, Duterte's drug war has affected many lives, some of them in a negative way due to the numerous deaths caused. Now, there would be the acknowledgement of the losses of the lives during the drug war. Third, there would be the restored public trust. Commitment to responsible governance and judicial independence can gradually rebuild citizens' faith in the rule of law and the credibility of state institutions. Should our judiciary, our government, and our law enforcement receive the necessary reforms, then there would be a restoration of the reputation lost due to the fact that measures has been made to make sure that there would be lesser risks caused for any future operations. Then there would also be the short-term applications. First, we have the cooperation with the ICC, where the Philippine government could demonstrate its commitment to justice by providing evidence and facilitating investigations, ensuring international protocols are adhered to without completely relinquishing sovereignty. Now, I have previously mentioned about striking a balance for the government, balancing the interests of both those who want to cooperate with the ICC and those that do not. Of course, the more practical solution would be to cooperate with the ICC. However, it should be within the interest of the Filipino people. As such, measures would have to be done in order to, while being able to cooperate with the ICC, our national sovereignty would remain respected. Secondly, would be establishment of a Truth and Justice Commission, a dedicated domestic body to investigate allegations of state-sanctioned killings that would allow victims' families to voice their experiences and promote institutional transparency. Now, this aligns with the acknowledgement of victims that I have previously mentioned. Moving on, would be the realignment with human rights norms, which would be to immediate measures taken to address past abuses would align the country's policies with global human rights standards, restoring credibility in its international commitments. In order to improve the image of the Philippines to other nations, we would of course have to realign the focus of the government with the respect of human rights. Then there are the long-term implications to take into account. Firstly, would be the future deterrence of abuses. Establishing accountability for the Duterte administration set a precedent that future leaders are not immune to prosecution, deterring potential abuses. No man is above the law, not even those who serve as our leaders and those who have previously served as our leaders. Regional influence. The Philippines' actions could encourage ASEAN members to reconsider non-interference policies, emphasizing balanced human rights and sovereignty principles. Now, by establishing accountability for the Duterte administration, the Philippines has the opportunity to be a pioneer within ASEAN to reconsider non-interference policies, potentially serving as one of the first countries for Southeast Asian nations to balance the interests of both the international community and the nation. Lastly, would be the strengthened international reputation. By cooperating with the ICC and emphasizing the role of law, the Philippines solidifies its global standing as a democratic state committed to justice and human rights. By allowing international bodies to look into the affairs of the Philippine state, it would help increase our standing, our reputation to the international community by showing that the Philippines trusts other nations to know what is right. Now then, the conclusions. This all highlights the tensions between justice and sovereignty, where in Duterte's case underscores the complexities of balancing international criminal justice with respect for national sovereignty, exploring how systems can coexist without mutual erosion. Secondly, it advocates for a hybrid accountability model that combines international cooperation with domestic mechanisms, that offers a nuanced solution that supports justice, preserves sovereignty, and strengthens democratic institutions. In other words, this one is all about balance, making sure that in order to keep the peace, in order to make sure that not one side would be heavily favored over the other, balance would be secured, have to be secured. Third, it reinforces its commitment to Philippine democracy. Efforts to hold Duterte accountable not only address past abuses, but serve as a precedent for safeguarding future democratic and human rights principles. By making sure that those that have done wrong are held accountable, it would make sure that in the future we would have less people who would do such egregious offenses by strengthening our democratic institutions. Now, fourth, stresses the importance of institutional reform. Accountability must extend beyond punishment, requiring systematic reforms to prevent future state-sanctioned violence and enhance public trust in government. Just as I have previously said about strengthening our democratic institutions, this all stresses the importance of the reform within our government. And lastly, it calls for global engagement and local ownership. Balancing international obligations with the national interest ensures that justice is pursued without compromising Philippine independence, setting a standard for similar cases worldwide. And that comes back to what I have previously said about balance, about making sure that in order to appease as much people as possible, in order to keep the peace, balance would be needed. Thank you.